I've been wanting to do a video on power prices for years, but there's only two types of media when it comes to this issue. The first one is talkback radio, where they say, "Give it to me straight, Ray. Is me power prices up because of renewables or immigrants?" And then the rest of the media seems to report it in financial jargon to make it purposefully boring. So every time I opened up the papers and read it about it, it would be like that Simpsons joke of going, "Ausgrid has decided to offset its base load..." Ugh. I won't turn to the funnies. Hey, Jughead, did you hear? Ausgrid has decided to offload... Ugh. And so I had to bring in the big guns, a la Alex Jones, and get inside sources. I know key people, folks. Key men. Some guy that works at Ausgrid that I vaguely know. And he sifted me through all the BS. And there is a lot of it. They make it deliberately boring and very complicated using a bunch of financial jargon to hide the fact that the New South Wales government has ripped you off royally. So to get a general understanding of what's going on, let's look at Sydney Morning Herald's coverage of it, which as usual is always just, they said this, they said that, reporting day done. Which one's right or wrong? You decide. You haven't really given us much facts. You've kind of just given us the gloss over of the two PR spreadsheets. Yeah. Do you know why our subscriptions are going down?
So what's the hottest debate this New South Wales election? It's Mike Baird's plan to privatise 49% of the state's electricity network. That's
the hottest plan. Oh yeah, this guy gets laid.
So he can invest in new infrastructure. So how will that work? First, Transgrid.
Loving this SimCity music in the background. SimCity makes life gold. If I was just put in solitary confinement and they just got the soundtrack to SimCity 4, I just wouldn't notice aging, and then one day I'd just slip off and that'd be the end of it.
Which runs the state's large, high-voltage transmission network, will be up for grabs. The government will lease 100% of that business for 99 years.
And this 99 years leasing thing, by the way, is such a rort on two levels. Just sell it outright. When they just have these, "Oh, no, you still own it. It's just we're leasing it out. We're just collecting rent." That is the worst of both worlds, because they've essentially given it over. 100 years from now, you're not going to be here. Ooh, sorry. Imagine if there's some 5-year-old that hasn't figured out that they're going to die one day yet, watching this and just be like, "Oh my God."
50.4% of both Ausgrid and Endeavour Energy will be offered for lease. Those two businesses supply 2.6 million households in Sydney, the Hunter and Illawarra. Essential Energy, which owns poles and wires in country New South Wales, will stay in state ownership.
No wonder people from the country have such a chip on their shoulder. They were just represented by being a cow that is in bed reading a book.
While the government will retain a 51% share in the entire network, private investors will have effective control of the poles and wires that service about 70% of households.
It doesn't matter if the government has control over the electricity grid, by the way, because they're still the Liberal Party. The reason that they even privatise it in the first place is because they're doing what their donors want. This is what you need to remember about this whole story. It is not about you, it is about them pleasing their donors.
Labor and the Greens oppose the plan. They claim it will push up electricity prices and deprive state coffers of revenue.
And they were right on both accounts. We were once getting $1.7 billion a year in profit as a result of our state-owned electricity services. We are not getting that money anymore. And also, your power prices have increased by as much as $300 a year. God. Really earning that insult that I get all the time of being the current affair of Gen Y. This whole story is why your power prices are shocking.
The government says consumers will be protected because the sector will remain highly regulated. And of course, the extra revenue will allow popular transport projects to be fast-tracked. But will that be enough to convince the voters to part with their poles and wires?
And it was. Well, probably not that. It was probably just a shot of Mike Baird going, "I like Manly, it's a really nice beach," and then people went, "It is a nice beach," and voted them in again. This is what has actually happened since then. They sold their shares in Ausgrid. First off, they released the asking price prematurely because the first estimate came back and they went, $17 billion, and then they looked at it and went, yeah, we'll just take that one. And then another estimate came back and said, no, actually you could charge way higher than that, and they just went, too late, and then they just sold it to their donors at a cheaper price than they should have. So, party of strong economic management right there. They should have gotten around an additional $650 million more for their sales in it that they didn't get. That's heaps of schools that we don't have money for now. Then what they did with their controlling shares. So just because they're saying that, oh, the government's still in control of it, yeah, but who's in control of the government? The power companies. It's really a chicken or the egg scenario here. One of the major reasons that your power prices are so expensive is because electricity companies build a bunch of infrastructure and then they say, well, we've got to give electricity to that one guy that lives 1,000 kilometers away from Burke. He needs an automatic shoe polisher too. That's one of the ways that they do it. They build a bunch of useless infrastructure that leads to nowhere, and then they say that everybody has to pay because we're all in this together. So why don't we own those assets? Because you're not all in this together. They upgrade the infrastructure when it doesn't need to be upgraded. Then the money that they use for this, they put on lease, and they put it on long-term leases, so it's easy to pay back, and it's cheaper to do as a result of that. Gladys Berejiklian's government came in, and then they said, no, make it all short-term leases. It was a direct order from the Premier. Putting all of that money on a short-term lease is like paying off your home loan with your credit cards. You could do it, but why? How are they the party of strong economic managers? I've only ever heard of Gladys Berejiklian doing that and a really rich housewife on Dr. Phil that was crying, I've got a problem. And Gladys Berejiklian is one of those as well. Look at that brave smile she's putting on. She's dead inside. And the reason they did this is because then they could say, oh, well, we've got to pay back this $1 billion in the next 20 days, otherwise we'll get a hike of 1% interest. It's madness. So that they can put in the estimates that the maintenance and the infrastructure of all of Ausgrid is way more than it actually is. They found out that they were actually estimating it to be double what it was actually worth. Then the ACCC, which is the competition watchdog, they came in and said, who let the estimates out? So then the New South Wales government, the government that is working for you, took the ACCC to court, which is taxpayer funded, and used your taxpayer dollars to sue that taxpayer funded industry. So it was just legal insanity. The government was suing the ACCC for the right for Ausgrid to overcharge you an average of $200 a year more for services that are like Bigfoot. Do they exist? Probably not. And on top of that, before any house in New South Wales even turns on their lights, if you stayed in complete darkness, if you were a caveman, you would still get a letter in your mailbox, which I'm imagining is just a smaller rock that they put the letters under. He would look at it, he'd go, what the f*** is English? Probably throw it away. But on that bill would be $500 for nothing. You are getting charged $500 a year, even if you didn't turn on a single light. Now let's see what Magilla Gorilla had to say about it when he was Premier. Now he's an NAB chairman, so just service after service for Australia.
Here are the real facts about poles and wires. We're not selling any assets. We're only leasing 49%.
Is he joking or not? Is he making a parody of himself? Is this just a good impersonator of him? We're not selling any assets. We're only leasing 49% of poles and wires. It's worse. Just do a hard sell.
We retain full public ownership, and this lease won't increase network prices.
Won't it? This was their promise last election. Now they're saying, yeah, we're going to bring down power prices. You increase them 60%. You're the party that's going to bring them down. The one that is wanting to privatise more electricity companies if they get back in.
And that rent will build new public assets, new schools, hospitals.
They built one hospital in the Northern Beaches, the place that sorely needs public infrastructure. A place where a bunch of snooty cunts are too good to drink out of a glass. Everyone there has a fucking glass jar. Drink out of your hands like a real man.
That's my commitment to you.
So his commitment was power prices wouldn't increase. They've increased 60%. And they also said, and the network will get better. When the New South Wales government tried to sue the ACCC, the judge that was presiding said, I have never seen a case that is more insane in my life. And I used to be a regional court judge in Orange, so there were people whose defense was indiscernible. It was just... Their defense made more sense than yours. Case dismissed on every conceivable level. This is the biggest waste of my time since I watched Judge Dredd with Sylvester Stallone. So then the New South Wales government went to their donors and said, so sorry that our prosecution attorney wasn't one of those Avatar airbenders and couldn't change the space-time continuum to get the outcome that you wanted. So instead, we're going to relax laws and allow you to fire as many people as you want to make up the cost that you would have otherwise made for ripping off New South Wales customers. And so they went out did huge amounts of sackings of electricians, technicians, engineers, the things that keep the power grid running, and that is why now there is blackouts, that even my friend from Pakistan, Ali, who I do the podcast with, once was here when the lights just went and he said, "Oh, what the fuck is this, Pakistan?" But there is a better way. Can you guess what I'm about to say from this channel? I've got probably 300 Blues Clues at this point on it. I know that you don't expect me to say this. I think the Labor Party's a better alternative. They not only opposed the sale of Ausgrid, because they knew that this is exactly what it was, just a ruse of handing out huge amounts of public dollars to rip off New South Wales customers. On top of that, they are building a new renewable energy company that will be owned by the state, and you, the taxpayer, will receive a dividend of whatever profit they generate from it, which they will, because there is going to be about $10 billion worth of investment ready to go. The New South Wales Liberals have turned down huge amounts of foreign investment of people going, "Let me set up power grids for you," and them just going, "Absolutely not. How's all that sun supposed to get in that box?" It'll create 13,500 jobs. It is now proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that renewable energy is way cheaper than coal energy, and it is inevitable anyway. We have a bunch of closures of coal plants coming up really quickly, and the New South Wales Liberal government does not have a plan to transition this state into the inevitable green energy revolution that is happening worldwide. Instead, their argument seems to be, no, we believe in climate change and we want to do something about it. So what's your answer? Build more coal plants. That's your choice this election. Please tell everyone you know in New South Wales that, yeah, Gladys Berejiklian has a nice, concerned face, but the man that looks like a brick with glasses is doing a better job for you. And also come see my show. Why John Howard Really Fucked. It's basically the same thing you just saw then, except for it goes for an hour instead of 7 minutes.
Please share and comment below. Comment.